War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on Real America's Voice, on Newsmax TV, on G News, GTV, and Mandarin throughout the world. Also with a podcast that has over 21 million downloads, and one of the top podcasts in the country, and I think number 30 in the entire world. I want to thank everybody, our distribution partners, particularly the guys today in Denver and in Richmond that are helping us over this holiday weekend to put this on day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. We're now going to bring on Mayor Giuliani, but I got something. The engine room of the War Room continues to work 24/7. Just sent me a very interesting tweet from Mel Q. Per the President Trump's executive order from 9/12/18, if Biden's fake transition team accepts federal dollars from GSA while knowingly involved in voter fraud, any person associated with this transition can be considered a co-conspirator. Remember, this is all a faux. This is a faux presidency, a faux president-elect. This is all nonsense. Donald Trump on a resounding victory on game day. That would be November 3rd. Our next guest, Rudy Giuliani, is the man in charge of securing that victory and making sure it is not stolen from the American people. We now bring in America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Jack Posobiec, my wingman from One America, has been kind enough to come to the War Room today. So, Mayor Giuliani, the mainstream media, once again, is dancing on your grave, which they do every 24 hours, right? This is why you're resurgent. You're the ultimate honey badger. You do not care. You just keep going forward. They're dancing on your grave now because of the Third Circuit. Walk us through why they're wrong. This is not a catastrophic defeat.
No, actually, it actually helps us because it gives us another vehicle to the Supreme Court. Far better that they decided it quickly than they took 4 weeks and even came out our way. So the reality is, I don't think people understand the strategy. The strategy is to get to the Supreme Court with 3 or 4 different types of claims, all of which come to the conclusion that this election was systemically fraudulent. What I mean by that was it wasn't in 1 state or 2 or 3. It was in 6 or 7 of the most important states and isolated to the crooked Democratic cities in those states. And they were always counting on this new method of mail-in voting, which had been resisted for 20 years because it's so prone to fraud. And they knew exactly what they could do with it. So basically, they were ready to wipe out almost any margin that he had. And, had we been on the old system, they couldn't have wiped out some of these margins. There wasn't enough room in the absentee ballots, only 400,000. But when you have 2.5 million, 3 million, you can wipe out a big lead. You do it a couple of ways. You print extra ballots, or you quadruple count the ballot. You take the ballot and you put it in the machine 4 or 5 times. Now, I'm not just telling you that. We have about 20, 25 witnesses that will tell you that happened in Pennsylvania and in Michigan, which accounts for the disparity between the number of mail ballots sent out and the number counted, because there were more counted than was sent out, because they were counted 4 and 5 times. Unbelievable fraud. Unbelievable. It happened in 6 or 7 different states. It was orchestrated by someone because they did it all the same way. And they were very confident that they could make up almost any lead that he had.
Okay, I want to get back to the 3 or 4 different strategies to get to the Supreme Court and do it expeditiously. Here, I think, is what would be helpful for the audience. The mainstream media said this is all baseless. It's made up. There's nothing here. They call it baseless charges. It's President Trump's baseless charges, his baseless charges. At Gettysburg the other day, you presented witnesses that showed it certainly wasn't baseless. Now, you may argue on the details, but this is certainly not baseless. There is a basis here to go forward and to argue this and to be cross-examined in a court or to be crossed at a hearing by a state legislator. Here's the question. If your evidence is so overwhelming and so big, and this is such a vast scandal, why is it that Republican legislators in Pennsylvania and in Arizona, you've got a thing scheduled for Monday in Arizona, which sounds great, but it's at a Hyatt Regency with a selected group of Republicans. Where are, like, the Republican governor of Georgia? Where's the Republican legislature in Pennsylvania? And where is it And where's the governor, Ducey, and the legislature in Arizona? Why are they not saying, they're going, Rudy's right, this is overwhelming, we want to see what he's got for our state, let's call a special session and do this?
Well, I mean, a couple of reasons. First of all, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, they haven't really read beyond.
No, I don't. No, I'm not going to give them the benefit of that. We're in war. What are you talking about? The whole republic's here. What are they doing? What else do they get? They're politicians. What else they got going? No, Rudy, I do not want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's start over. So go ahead. Without giving them the benefit of the doubt, okay. What's your next one?
I don't think Ducey ever really was allied with the president. He's extremely unpopular in his state. He got elected by a 17% margin, but he hardly gets any applause when he comes out. And I don't know what he's got for the president, but he certainly isn't an ally. But the worst part of it is, if he doesn't embrace this, he'll be finished in the Republican Party. Look, this is an attack. But listen, we don't need allies. What we need is guys who just want to stand up for the rule of law. What we need is governors. Who want to do the right thing, by the way.
Want to do the right thing.
They are trying to destroy our political party. That's part of what they're trying to do. If they pull off this election this way, by the way they manipulate the mail ballots, to the tune of millions of mail ballots they can manipulate, and they continue to have control of these crooked cities, we could be ruined as a political party. That's what they'd like to do. They'd like a one-party system. George Soros would love to have a one-party system. And we'd all become internationalists. America no longer would there be America first, it wouldn't even be America second, or third, or fourth. It'd be China first. Who knows? Iran second.
Mayor, any political party that does not stand up for the rule of law and for actually counting all fair votes, it should be like the Whigs. It's not the Democrats. This is self-inflicted. They don't have any moral justification for going for it. They should be like the Whigs. This should be like 1858.
Yes.
They should just fade. But that's not a Democrat thing.
The Democrats should be splintering apart. They're the ones carrying out the fraud. We're asking them to do the right thing, and they're frightened. I'm not going to say all. I mean, we got some really courageous people. I think they're going to turn around Pennsylvania, the guys who stepped forward and the women who stepped forward. I think they're going to turn around Arizona. I think, and you know what I was told? This will give you an idea of it. I was told by one state legislature, we don't want to be the first one, but we'll be the second. So basically, we're either going to get none or we're going to get four. I'm
one
telling
falls,
you
they all fall.
They want a leader to follow. So it isn't just them, and they want to know they have a chance to win. So it isn't a futile effort, and they do, because there is overwhelming evidence of fraud in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, in Nevada, and in Atlanta. Any one of those, the state legislature quite legitimately could say the actual vote is Trump by 300,000, Trump by 40,000, Trump by 100,000 of the honest votes, of the votes that are real votes, not the 4-time in the machine where there's no ballot to even support it.
Have you seen this? And Jack Posovic's going to jump in here a second.
Well, I think he already knows that, Mr. Mayor, how are you doing? Great to talk to you again. Happy Thanksgiving. That I think the cat may have come out of the bag a little bit early on what you guys have in store for the Arizona hearing, because Matt Braynard just tweeted that he is going to present VIP findings in person at your Arizona hearing. Is that right, Mr. Mayor?
Well, okay, I can say yes about that. I can't tell you the full scope of it. But it's a combination. It's a combination of witnesses and expert testimony, which is the way you do an election fraud case. You always use expert testimony. But I want to emphasize it's witnesses too. We have over 250 affidavits for Michigan alone. We've got about 200 for Pennsylvania. We've got 100 for Arizona. These are human beings. When I say affidavits, these are human beings who are swearing under oath that they witnessed a crime. In some cases, just a few individual frauds. In some cases, one case, he stood there while 100,000 ballots were just thrown in, not examined by any independent person, not even examined by the official of the election commission. He was throwing him in like this. Never even looked at him. He had to know, and to the extent they could see it at all, it had Biden on the top. Biden. They have stretches that we now can analyze where Biden gets 4,000 votes and Trump gets 8. That's ridiculous.
Are these those spikes? You had a really, I mean, you had an incredibly poignant moment that I think's been played again and again from your Pennsylvania hearing, where you talked about this spike of Biden votes, this 4 a.m. spike in Pennsylvania. Are we still going to see something like that in Arizona, possibly Maricopa County? I know we've focused on.
Well, you're going to see something like it, maybe not quite as dramatic, but you're going to see that the machines had real difficulty getting back to zero or starting out at zero. And you're going to see in some of the machines an early infusion of votes. And I think I pay attention to the testimony on the machines there. Remember, in Maricopa County, they were using Dominion machines. And for all the propaganda about Dominion is a company that specializes in stealing elections. That's their expertise. Their roots are Venezuelan. They keep denying it. It's absolutely true. I think we'll be able to prove it scientifically that they are using Smartmatic software. And Smartmatic is the company that was founded for Hugo Chavez to fix elections.
I want to go back and Mayor, can we keep you over for a couple minutes in the next segment?
Sure.
But I want to finish here for a second. You just made a statement, and I think this is because we're the activist part of the Trump movement, right? Our listeners, as you know, and the people that from around the world, this is pure MAGA. This is the populist nationalist movement is right here. The question they've got, you just made a statement. Hey, I have 250 affidavits in Michigan. And this is not baseless charges. I have real human beings prepared to come forward and take all the abuse to the left. But here's the question. The legislature in Michigan has not scheduled a hearing. The legislature in Arizona, and that in Michigan is controlled by Republicans. In Arizona, controlled by Republicans. In Pennsylvania, you've got heroes like Dawn Kiefer, was just on here. Following you is going to be Colonel Mastriani, who you know was a hero the other day at your hearing. They're now passing resolutions to reverse a 1938 law to get them more involved in this. They're trying to talk to leadership over the weekend to extend the session past the 30th so they actually are still a body that can dress with this. These are not this is not George Soros. This is not the Democratic Party. This is not the mainstream media. We can't blame this on anybody. Here's what you just said. Do they think we're stupid? No, sir. They do not think you're stupid. But they think the Republican Party is gutless. They do not think the Republican Party will step up and stand up here in the breach. It's why they want to destroy Donald Trump. Why they want to destroy this movement. They think we're smart enough. They don't think we have the stones to sit there and go, we're not going to back down for this. So, Mayor, with all of those, what are you going to do with? You've done a hero's work to get all these affidavits. You and Jenna, Boris, the entire team. I tell you what, we got 30 seconds. Let me take a break here. We're going to come back to you, Mayor. You can cogitate on that response. But no, they think Rudy Giuliani's smart and brave and tough, but they don't think the establishment in these states is smart and brave and tough. They think they're gutless, and that's the problem we have. We're going to return with America's Mayor, the president's lawyer, on War Room Pandemic with Jack Posobiec, Stephen K. Bannon, live from Washington, D.C.
Stephen K. Bannon.
Courage is contagious.
New pandemic.
And it's the new pandemic. And when you talk about courage, you got to talk about America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. So, Mayor, understanding you're showing leadership, and here's the leadership you're showing. They can mock and ridicule you. They can say you can't hit a fastball anymore. You've lost a step. Rudy's above his head. He's not a constitutional guy. All of that, right? And you're just relentless. You keep coming, you keep coming, you keep coming. It's pure honey badger. Okay? And that's exactly what's needed now, grit and determination. So I want to go back to my question. Is there enough courage in the leadership of the Republican Party in these states to actually, we're on the cusp of securing a great victory, right? Or we're on the cusp of oblivion. This is a binary function, right? There's not any question here. One or the other. What are you telling our audience it takes now, and what can they do to assist you in trying to put a spine into the gutless establishment of the Republican Party in states like Georgia, in Arizona, and in Pennsylvania?
Let the leadership of the party know that this is an absolute necessity for the future of our country, and that it's not going to be forgotten if people are on the wrong side of this. This is one of those things that 10, 15, 20 years from now, people will ask what side were you on. And if you're on the wrong side of this, you're going to be on the wrong side of the Republican Party and the wrong side of history. And I think, people tend to follow a leader. And I think this does come down to getting the first legislature to take a stand and say there was too much corruption in this election. It's quite clear that Biden stole it, and we're going to disqualify him, and we're going to give our votes to Trump. They are perfectly entitled to do that under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution. People have to go read it. The state legislature runs the presidential election. The state legislature determines the electors. The state legislature determines ultimately if the vote that was given to them to select electors is legitimate or not, and has the right to discount votes that are illegitimate. And then you discount those illegitimate votes properly, and we win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, easily. We win Arizona and Georgia, which were quite close. I think we win Nevada, too. So you don't need all those. You just need 3 of them if you have Pennsylvania. It takes a lot of guts to do it. But I think if enough go out front, the people who are now frightened will come along, because then they're not going to be standing there all by themselves.
In Wisconsin, Jack Basso has been reporting this entire show. He's hearing from guys in the room that, there's 19,000 of these IC rejections in Milwaukee County. There's going to be more in Dane County. They just announced that it's going to be sometime on Sunday. They think they'll be finished. What do you do once you get a state like Wisconsin, which the mainstream media is not talking about? And the reason they're not talking about it is we caught them dead to rights on illegal ballots out there. What's your next step? Do you take it to the General Assembly there, or do you go into the court? Where you're the strategist, you're driving this.
The courts are so darn political. It's a shame. I mean, the case in Wisconsin in a court is almost an obvious one. You're supposed to have an application for every absentee ballot. And when you count, and this is the law in Wisconsin, who has the strictest absentee law in the country, they almost don't like absentee ballots. They basically say it in their legislation. And they even say in the legislation they want the law strictly construed. So you have maybe 50, 60,000 absentee mail-in votes without an application. The law says you count those out in the county in which they were cast. You do that, and he wins that election by about 40,000 votes. If you just follow the law, if you have the courage to follow the law. So that's why we have to also count on the state legislature, because some of the judges make up the law. In Pennsylvania, the language in the statute says that when you're counting these ballots, both sides have to be present. You know what the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania decided, 5-2, the 5 Democrat judges? That present just means you can be in the room, but they don't have to show you anything. But what would be the purpose of being in the room if they didn't show you anything? You're supposed to be there to inspect the integrity of the ballot, but they can put you in the room and hide it from you. That's a ridiculous decision. You only make that decision for political reasons. No lawyer, no rational person would come to that conclusion. I mean, I would be embarrassed to put my name on an opinion like that. Well, that'll get reversed by the Supreme Court eventually. But that's the lengths that these judges go to out of, I don't know what it is, loyalty to the Democrat Party.
Let me real quickly, because we're burning daylight here. And speaking of burning daylight, the 8th is safe harbor. The 14th, the Electoral College meets in the different state capitals. You're going to go to the Supreme Court. When do you want to go? And you said you had 3 or 4 strategies. What are the three you've got? When do you anticipate going? And, people are sitting there going, hey, the president thinking about going to Georgia next weekend. Isn't that safe harbor like a stake in the ground? It's one we can go past. The 14th, he can't go past. And the president's actually said, hey, if he beats me in the Electoral College on the 14th, I won't concede, but I understand it's time to move on. So when does Rudy Giuliani and the team, when are you going to be arguing in front of the Supreme Court as you see it on Friday the 27th?
Well, it depends on how we get there. If we can get these legislatures to do what they're supposed to do what the evidence suggests, then we'll be in the Supreme Court as defendants, because Biden will surely take us there, right? And if we get right now the two cases that we have.
Okay, but hang on, Mayor. This is my point. I got that, but my point is, you don't have in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Michigan with overwhelming evidence, and even in Georgia, with another Republican legislature, you don't even have a joint meeting set up yet. You have 1 week. We have 10 days. In which state? We have meetings set up. In Arizona.
No.
You have Mayor. That's a meeting with a group of Republicans that are going to sit there like in Gettysburg. It's fantastic. That's not an official state legislature.
We're going to put witnesses on so that the public can see the witnesses, and therefore create the kind of pressure that will get the leadership to have to come along. I talked to those leaders. I'm not convinced that won't turn into a hearing. Pennsylvania didn't start as a hearing. Pennsylvania started as a private meeting, and we built it into a hearing. So let us keep working all weekend. We've made a lot of progress. Michigan gave us a meeting. Then they took it back. And as soon as they heard about Pennsylvania, they called me up, and now we're going to have a bigger meeting. And now we're going to try to get the meeting from an informal hearing to a formal hearing. So believe me, if Pennsylvania takes decisive action, they'll all follow very quickly.
Is the buried lead here the safe harbor in the 8th? We're just going to blow by. It's really the 14th, because this is never all going to get done by the 8th. It just can't. You can't argue to the Supreme.
There's no reason why it can't get done by the 8th. Particularly the legislative part of it, where you don't have all those procedural rules that you have in court, where you have to make a motion to dismiss and you have to make a motion for summary judgment. Okay. And although we are going to bring another case, probably within 2 days, that would very quickly go to the Supreme Court as a backup, just in case.
Mayor, you're a hero. Tell people, do you have a new podcast that's going to come out tonight? Your podcasts are must watch. Do you have a new podcast that's coming up today?
I have one that I did here yesterday, and it gives you an idea of our strategy. And people have heard a lot about the case in Pennsylvania. They haven't heard a lot about the case in Michigan, and we show them the evidence in the case in Michigan. The podcasts are good because it puts the lie to what the media is saying. We have no evidence. If you were to take 7 or 8 of my podcasts and put them together, we got about 25 witnesses and about 50 documents and pictures. I mean, the cases, the evidence is there. So this propaganda,
your podcast,
the
your
propaganda
podcasts are amazing.
is overwhelming.
We got about how do people get to the podcast? How do they get you on Twitter? How do they get you on Parler? How do they get to the website? I know you got a great team.
Rudy'sCommonSense.com is my podcast, and Rudy Giuliani for all the rest.
Mayor, you're not just America's hero. I think you're the hero also of the deplorables and the Trump movement and the MAGA movement. You never quit.
I love being the hero of the deplorables. I
got to.
Some idiot wrote. Some idiot at the Times wrote that what all these Trump people should be excluded from polite society. And I said, I agree with you. I don't want to be part of polite society. I never liked the New York cocktail parties anyway. Bunch of phonies.
Yeah. You resemble that comment, Mayor Giuliani. Thank you so. Thank you so much for. Thank you so much for having us on, coming on, and thank your staff for setting time. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mayor Rudy Giuliani. I guess that was supposed to be the Park Avenue.
This turns into the Rudy Giuliani comedy hour after about a certain point in time.
Stand up. I tell you what, a real hero. We're going to take a short break. We're going to get the state senator that really had the inflection point, Senator Mastriano, who's a 31-year Army colonel, veteran. Just like Jack Posobiec is naval intelligence, he is military, he's Army intelligence. We'll have them thrash it out in the next segment. Jack Posobiec, Stephen K. Bannon. Short break. Be back in the War Room in a moment.